Showing us another boring baseline indicator, VP. You know these things are all pretty much the same once you really get down to it, don't you? My friend, you could not be more wrong. It's the ALMA indicator, traders, and this is, I don't know if it's the first no lag baseline we've tried yet. I should have gone back and looked, but we haven't done many, so I want to get into this one. And as far as what I said in the intro, we've got just a couple comments on baselines, how people wish we wouldn't do as many. And it's not a lot, but every time one person says it, you know, a dozen or so people are thinking it. So I just want to let you know that on the surface, sometimes they do look very similar, but as soon as you start going in and testing them and putting them up against your own system, you see the difference very, very clearly. These are a very important piece of the overall algorithm. And once you get a good one, you do not let it go. And this is a pretty darn good one. Let's get into it. Now, if you're new, understand that this will make some sense, but it won't make a ton of sense because this all has to do with the way we do things here at No Nonsense Forex. So go to the webpage right here and watch that first video on that first page and then get started. Indicators, money management, psychology, that is what we do here. But for the rest of us, moving on to the specs, the year this was created is 2009. It is a baseline subtype, it's a baseline. And for an exit indicator, I certainly would not bother using this for that purpose. But there you go. Now let's take a look at it. Pretty straightforward, right? Again, on the surface, you're like, it's just like any other baseline. But as you will see on the blog, a lot of these things are calculated completely differently with a lot of really interesting components to it. Components that really go far beyond my scope of understanding. But if you really want to dig into this deeper and you like the math and the coding behind it, Dan does a really nice job of going into those things. But as you know, as soon as price crosses and closes above this baseline, that is known as a long signal. And when it crosses and closes below it, that is a short signal. Like all baselines, you will get into some choppy waters sometimes. But what's great about a baseline is it has the money management aspect of it built in to where you're not taking huge losses. And as I always say, the rest of your algorithm should be keeping you out of a lot of these bad trades. But that's enough talk on a pretty basic looking indicator. Let's move forward into the testing and understand, even if we show great results or not so great results, you should be testing these on your own with your own system. Now, I know some of you start with a confirmation indicator and build from there. I know some of you start with a baseline and build from there. If you are in that latter camp, it may be easier to take a step back and start with the confirmation indicator instead when you're testing different baselines. Does that make sense? Whether your baseline or your confirmation indicator is the anchor of your entire system does have a bearing on how quickly you're able to test one or the other. But moving on, as always, you will get a link to my automation blog, which has a video from Dan on how to test these yourself on the MT4 Strategy Tester, Dan's actual blog, which goes deeper into this, and then a place where you can go download this yourself. So without further ado, I'm excited to show you this. We have some pretty consistent results across the board without spoiling things. Let's move into the euro dollar. For a Forex baseline, that is a really nice place to start and a solid number of trades in my opinion. Now, I've been asked, what is a good number of trades to you? And I don't like answering that question because, and I've gotten myself in trouble with this before, things that makes sense to me in the way I trade could be a really bad idea for you because I don't know what you're trading. You know, are you trading 36 currency pairs along with metals, along with indices, along with crypto? And I know we use percentages here, which helps, but it can still be very overwhelming to have a lot of positions open, especially when certain news events are coming up, especially now, as much power as the Fed has, and those news events are really significant to where they weren't before. You know, there is no great number. I know I say it a lot, and I'm saying this for myself, but you know your system enough to know what a healthy number is and what a healthy number isn't, so just use these as your guide. But I can't say that something like 90 trades on the daily on euro dollar is probably going to be excessive unless that's the only thing you're trading. I can say with confidence you are certainly going to want to get that number down. Let's move on though, over to gold. I mean, like I said, just strong across the board here. Traders, a really nice place to start. You do not have a good win-loss ratio at all. Here, I have shown you other indicators in the past that have, and other baselines too, that give you a much better win-loss ratio on gold. But in the end, it is the ROI that matters. So you have to go test this yourself and see how it does for you. Moving on to S&P, also very strong. Remember, the S&P averages about 11% a year with a baseline alone. One indicator. You are already surpassing that on these tests. Not a bad place to start your own testing. And then finishing up with Bitcoin. Again, not very good on the defaults, but after the tweaks. And for those of you who don't know, the tweaks are listed over here, and you can find those on the blog. You're getting some really nice results. And as I said before, 2022 is a very good year to test. Because in 2022, the market just didn't move all the time. You had those periods of stagnation. And we don't really know what crypto is going to do going forward in terms of if we're going to have a lot of those stagnation periods again. But if I was a betting man, I would say we probably are. So if I was only back testing 1 year back, I think 2022 would be a very good year to do that. I mean, what's the worst that happens? It gets better. So a really interesting no lag baseline that performs really well across the board. I hope you all enjoy it. And if you enjoy things like this, we do it all the time. We have an investment podcast, we have a trading psychology podcast, and we do indicators every other week. Hopefully we'll be back to a week by week clip starting 2023. So subscribe, hit the bell, don't miss anything. And don't be hitting the brakes just because we're at the end of the year. I'm not the type that makes New Year's resolutions. If I want to do something, I just do it now. Don't wait. There's no reason to. Put in that work and go get it.